Welcome one and all to a special edition of the Defo Show with Lubie. No Defo, just Lubie here on South Florida Live and the Five Reasons Sports Network plus Little Believe Network. We're going to cover all the bases today with this man. You know him well, Mr. Lights Out. Shawne Merriman did it on the football field, college, NFL, and is doing it in the world of the Octagon MMA this Saturday, actually. LXF 8, along with the partnership of FUBO TV in Riverside, California. This man puts on a card for the century. We talk with Shawne Merriman here once again. Thank you, Shawne, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate you having me.
All righty. So a lot going on in the NFL world, but I do want to talk MMA as you, Mr. Mogul, started your own MMA promotion company, and you're now on your eighth event as LXF 8 this Saturday. What can we look forward to with your partnership with FUBO TV and LXF 8 this Saturday?
Yeah, we got a huge fight this Saturday, the 14th in Riverside, California, but it'll be live on FUBO from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. I ventured out in this MMA space back in 2006 when I started to train with Jay Glazer and Randy Couture. I just wanted to get better with my hand-eye coordination, a better outside linebacker, being able to use my hands. And long story short, I ended up falling in love with the sport and launched Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2018. As you just said right now, we're live on FUBO TV. We just extend our partnership with FUBO for all of 2023. So it's a really big deal for us.
Well, FUBO is a network, 24-hour sports. It is, right now, at least, it is free to the consumer. So especially USA, Canada, they'll be streaming the entire event. What does that mean to you guys to be with such a strong brand to really try and take LXF to another level?
Well, it's been great with us because this is going to be the first fight that is also international. Will be shown in France and Canada, some in Spain. So I'm excited about that because obviously, playing in football to me is still always going to be the greatest sport in the world, but it's huge here in the States. MMA is a very global sport that they're watching all over the world. So to actually own and run a organization is shown all over the world after me playing in the NFL, which is obviously with my childhood dream, it doesn't get any much better than being on this side of things and being able to promote these up and coming fighters. We know there's other great leagues and things out there like that, but we want to give these fighters the biggest chance possible to be seen so they can create a living for themselves.
Well, and look, we saw with your career, injuries got in the way a lot and sort of cut it short from Chargers to the Bills. Speaking of the Bills, we saw with DeMar Hamlin, an injury that, thank goodness, from last week to now, it's night and day, and the guy is in Buffalo, and it seems like he's in good spirits. It seems like, God willing, he'll make a full recovery. What does that do for the player? Because a big part of why you started this was you wanted to not only give yourself, but give a lot of athletes, whether it's NFL or other sports, that next chapter, right? Like you football is done, but you still want to compete. What are the differences? What are the similarities from football to MMA?
To be honest, it's an easy transition, and I am looking to bring on more former athletes into Lights Out Extreme Fighting. But as far as DeMar, we all knew that was a unfortunate would be a light answer to it. It was a freak, catastrophic kind of thing. I mean, we've all seen people leave the field before with major injuries, but nothing like we've seen, last Monday night. And it was a tough situation to take in as a former athlete. It's a tough situation. Obviously me being a former Bills player and that community out there, and I just know how much they care about their fans, and they're the best fans in sports, in my opinion. But to see him make a full recovery this week and walking on his own, breathing on his own, tweeting on his own, I mean, that was pretty awesome to see.
Well, look, we've seen changes with safety when it comes to football. We've seen MMA. I mean, I remember when I was in college when it was like a blood sport. It's grown leaps and bounds. As a guy who did suffer injuries and it seemed to constantly get in your way, what does that do for you mentally? Like, to me, physically, it's a whole thing, but mentally, we've heard it's just as big a deal to get back out there and take the next hit and give the next hit.
It is, because actually, before any kind of big injury that I've ever had, I walked around like I was Superman, right? Like I can't be hurt. I'm running through people. I just play reckless abandon for 4 quarters. And, you have an injury like I did, started with my knee. You're like, okay, wow, this can happen to me. I'm not Superman. I'm a human being. And then I came after that. But what happens is you have this compensation type of thing, where it starts at your knee. You might, in my case, it was my other Achilles for compensating. I tore that. Then hamstring and back. It never stops after that point. That's the hardest thing you see about a lot of guys. And one of the guys I think of when we talk about this was Jason Verrett, right? That was with the Chargers, then with the 49ers, and you saw just a back-to-back freak injuries. And it's a whole compensation thing. And, I was fortunate at my peak, right? When I was healthy, I was considered the best at what I did. So I got that opportunity. But yeah, I would have loved to play, injury free a lot longer.
When you hear the term injury prone, because to me it's football or MMA, and in both sports, you're running at another human. Like, I feel like injuries are going to happen. Like, what do you say to people when they say things like that? Because it's out of your control. It's not like you're not training. We saw you. I watched you at Maryland, and I was at FSU. I watched you at Maryland in person. Watched you in the NFL. It's not like training's not happening. It's not like these medical staffs are not top notch. Like, when you hear that term, what do you say to that?
Well, when you play football, I tell you this: that first play of training camp, you're never fully 100% healthy. Nothing is on you healthy. That first snap of training camp, you are something: a finger, a back, a wrist, a shoulder, or something, elbow, something hurts all the way to the end of the season. So when I hear people say injury prone, everybody's injured or hurt in the NFL. But it takes a few big injuries before your body starts to change. Like after my knee, I was fine. I came back and I was healthy. I think it was my Achilles is where I just completely lost the explosion. So once those type of injuries happen, you just never really fully recover to the player and be the player you once were.
You hear this term again this Saturday. Super stoked. LXF 8, Riverside, California. FUBO TV streaming live, United States and Canada. And you can check it out later on internationally with FUBO TV as well. Shawne Merriman here, the mogul, the man behind Lights Out Extreme Fighting in their 8th event. So they're doing it big. Really excited for this Saturday, January 14th. This term, we hear this all the time. And look, and you play in the different. It's so funny, the early 2000s, but it's a different era now. Early 2000s feels more like the 90s than it does feel today when you watch that football. And you were on a Charger team where you did play with Rodney Harrison. You were in the middle, Rodney Harrison in the back end. Talk about lights out. You guys went after it. When you hear the term safety and football, safety and MMA, what does that mean to you? Because to me, there's only so safe you can make both sports.
Well, let's be honest. We love these sports. Football is the biggest sport here in this country just because of the violence and physicality, right? We love that as Americans. Same thing with fighting. Fighting has been around for hundreds of years. It's the actual sport, so it's never going anywhere. But when you see something catastrophic, right? That's when you see a guy with a concussion. That knees and elbows and just shoulder, the regular injuries happen. So when you see catastrophic things, that's when you say, okay, this is not being safe anymore. I think the NFL they've done a hell of a job by cleaning up as much as they possibly can with the helmet, and protecting the players. But let's not be mistaken; it's still football, and that's the love of the sport, not only from the players but everybody in this country. It's the reason why so many people tune in and watch and so emotionally attached to their favorite team, because that player is willing to go out there and risk his body and put his body on the line to entertain fans and the people watching.
Well, you look, Lights Out was your nickname for a reason. Like, you put people to sleep. I was there when Maryland came out of nowhere, and I'm like, who the hell is this Shawne Merriman? And you were just annihilating people. And it's so funny to see how far it's come, because I remember we used to cheer on the hit. Now we wince like we do. And I'm Marvin Jones is a friend of mine. Like, I'll be with football players, and they used to lay out the licks, and even they now go, oh, because of what we know. Could you play in this NFL the way it is now? And what would Shawne Merriman be, and how different would you be in this NFL?
I would be playing for free, because there'll be a lot of fines coming my way for sure. So whatever I made that game, I would just go fork it right back over to the league. It's funny because, I never had any illegal hits or anything. I think I got fined one time for like a horse collar in preseason once. But I guess the support of the big hits, right, is changing. So, NFL and anybody around is kind of staying away from the big collisions, concussions. I mean, one of my favorite shows of all time, still to this day, was Jacked Up. I mean,
Yep.
I don't, Jacked Up to me was, I couldn't wait to watch Jacked Up. That was my favorite thing. And now the NFL has kind of shied away from those big hits and those big collisions, and not promote that, which I get and understand. But the grand scheme of things is football is a very physical sport. And that's why we love it in this country. And that's why NFL will always be number one. Football in general will just be number one in this country, because that's the backbone of what we're built on, right? Just that physicality, the gladiators, they love to support their team because of it.
When you talk about physicality, talk about gladiators. This Saturday, January 14th, Riverside, California, on FUBO TV. Again, free, which is a word you don't hear a lot in 2022 to 2023. What can people expect from LXF 8 this Saturday?
We walk it in with 10 fights, and we plan on just lighting it up. We're Riverside, California is just going to be amazing. And I'm also doing an appearance, a signing at Dave & Buster's. I got a huge partnership with Dave & Buster's the night before on the 13th at Ontario Mills Mall. But it's just a return for us, and the extension of the partnership with FUBO. And we want to give people the most exciting fights possible. We got a lot of what I call young, hungry lions trying to come up and make a name for themselves. And we're giving them a big platform over at Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
Shawne, I appreciate your time. Hopefully we get to talk to you again in the future. Good luck this Saturday. Again, FUBO TV, LXF 8, Shawne Merriman's organization. Appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.